And then during this era, almost all films were made in Malay language. But if I'm not mistaken, there were like 1 or 2 films made in other languages. There's one Tamil film by Pansha in 1990 titled Nan Oru Malaysian, Saya Anak Malaysia. By Pansha, it made in Tamil, but it was not that well received. That's also during that period a handful of experimental films were made. One is Berjalai, directed by Stephen Tew, as Sawakian. Now he's a film scholar based in Singapore. And the other one is Seman, shot in 16mm, directed by Mansur. And then generally during this era, the films are all commercially oriented. But of course, there were a handful of directors who attempted to depict a more critical or contested visions of society and culture in India film. For example, Rahim Razali, Nasir Jani, and a few more. And then in the 1990s, I think you can read Professor Khoo Cheng's book, claiming that she focuses on 1990s Malay filmmakers quite extensively in her book, reclaiming that. Emerged a number of acclaimed directors such as Yui Hadisari, whose films Kaki Bakar was the first Malaysian film to be invited to Cannes Film Festival. And then Shohari Baba, Ahmad Saleh, Mahadiji Murad, and a few more. And then the third era is the post-millennial era, where all these where emerged all these digital indie filmmakers mentioned by Gaik just now. And with the advent of digital technology and all this, witness a kind of democratization of Malaysian cinema, and this has also facilitated a number of film productions made in other languages, other than Malay language, the national language. So because films can be made, with low budget and so forth, so this has allowed and enabled all these filmmakers to come up with films in their mother tongues. And basically that is the 3 phases or stages of the development of Malaysian cinema in general. And I would like to draw your attention actually to one of the contentious issues, that has been, become how to put it, the bane of the film industry. That is these issues and questions of national cinema. Especially for example in 2016, when Jagat competed in the Malaysian Film Festival, there was a controversy, very controversial, because the festival decided to split the category of the best film into 2 categories. One is best national cinema, the other one is best Malaysian film. It's quite ridiculous, isn't it? So it's but to tell you, for information, this notion of national cinema has been invoked and has been used in Malaysia, especially among the industrial practitioners, people in the industry, as well as people from finance, in the very superficial and prescriptive way. They always like to prescribe what are the requirements or criteria of specific for this Malaysian national cinema, like must of necessity mean or something like that, So that's the problem. That's always the issue, and unfortunately, when they talk and they discuss on Malaysian cinema, national cinema, they generally focus on the idea of language, the spoken language, as the main criterion. Yeah. So at the expense of the films themselves, there are so many aspects that can be explored when one discusses national cinema. So there's always this tension between trying to look at national cinema as playing an important role in constructing nationhood and national identity, and also trying to look at films that depict or represent Malaysia or the nation, in a more realistic way, that correspond to what's happening on the ground. So there's always this. I think this is also very much reflected in everyday discourse and also social reality and also practices in Malaysia. There's always tension between cultural assimilation and cultural pluralism. The need to assimilate into, to unite, and also the other one is to maintain or to celebrate diversity, cultural pluralism. So so when all these filmmakers, like the post-millennial filmmakers emerge, or these digital indie filmmakers or other filmmakers in Malaysia, when they try to, depict and portray and open up representation and so forth. So they also address, or convey, some alternative voices, oppositional discourse, contradictory unity, as well as counter narratives, in different ways, using different approaches. So this actually reflect what's happening in Malaysia, with these different filmmakers and approaches. So they reflect, because in Malaysia, when you talk about, because there's no, from my own perspective, from my point of view, there is no serious attempts to understand and to regard Malaysia as a nation. At the moment, Malaysia is only a state. I mean, this is debatable, of course. It's not going to finish. Yeah, nation state, in my opinion, is very, quite utopian. Yeah, we have all this rhetorical slogan, one Malaysia, and so that's why. And they also always, render it in a very contradictory manner. So there's always this. So different. There's also different segment of society intend or imagine different kind of nations as they wish. Yeah. So the nations that they imagine or dream about. For example, certain segment, of course, they want Malaysia that is based on ethno-nationalism, Malay nationalism, and that's also a more diverse or plural kind of nation, which celebrate cultural diversity, and also there's also a nation that foregrounds Islam, kind of like Islamic nation, in its administration and all these practices. Yeah, so all these actually are reflected in all these films. So you have different. I think in my opinion this is very encouraging and should be encouraged, because if we consider nation building is an ongoing torturous process. Yeah. So this is but one thing when it comes to this, I would like to also pose a question. I was talking to Prof. Lim last night about this. Prof. Lim believed that any films that are made must be made for the audience. They must be like, they must cater to, a specific audience, even not maybe a large number of audiences. Maybe one thing that normally when it comes to this also national cinema, one aspect that has been neglected is the approach that considers film consumption and reception. I think it's very important because even many argue that what is the point of having a national cinema, because if we do not consider its audience. So it's very important, especially like at the moment in Malaysia. Last year saw quite a number of films doing very well commercially. Last year, yeah.
A handful of them did very well. The rest just didn't.
Oh yeah, no.
There were a lot of crappy films.
Yeah, but I mean, no, in terms of commercial success, yeah. Oh yeah, about 4 or 5. Yeah, 4 or 5.
100.
Yeah. So but they were all like genre film. They were like horror or horror comedy and action. So what is at stake actually in this, in this commercial success, of this film, although not many, because in what ways we can address, in what ways do these films appeal to the desires and fantasies of the mainstream audience? Yeah, I think that is among the questions that we should be asking. Yeah, because I think, because when you talk, especially also as Gaik mentioned just now, nowadays many indie filmmakers, many films also straddle both approaches, art house, indie / popular commercial. So so sometimes it's still in the hands of better or good directors. Even genre films are well made, so there's nothing wrong about genre films in my opinion. But as we can see, the majority of the mainstream audiences in Malaysia still prefer genre films. Yeah. think I should stop with that question here.
Okay, selamat petang. Don't fall asleep. It's time to sleep actually. So when Ishi has been talk about Malaysian film, actually I don't have much to say about Malaysian film. I would like to say more about film in Malaysia or film in Malaysia. What is film in Malaysia to me? So I would I would rather read what I wrote last night when I didn't join them to celebrate Namrong's. Yeah. So
Number one won the best director.
yeah, Namrong won the best director prize in Sarapuji ASEAN Film Festival. So we celebrated that last night. So I remember the first time I watched a movie was in Kuala Bahan. I guess nobody knows where Kuala Bahan is, but it's a fishing village at the mouth of the Sungai Bahan. It was around my primary school years when the Milo company put on an outdoor showing at the Badan of my kampong, where I still remember it was a Batman and Robin film in black and white. And since then I became a fan of Batman and Robin, trying to watch the Batman and Robin films whenever a new one is produced. So I had my first film live experience in my childhood, more than about 60 years or more than half a century after the Paris audience of Lumiere views Cheng movie. But imagine just more than 60 years. Film travels fast as a global enterprise. From Paris to Bahan and inside more than 60 years. So my first cinema film experience, meaning watching a film in darkness, was in mid-1960s in Kuantan. And there was a Taiwan wuxia genre film called An Inn in the Wild. Of course, there was the ages of wuxia. And again, immediately I became a fan of wuxia film, though the film was quite below average production. So as I found similarity between wuxia and Batman films, which was about conflict between good and evil, darkness and brightness and things like that. Except that in wuxia film, there's always a sort of Merdeka Hotel, right? A Dragon Inn, where the good and the bad guys meet and fight instead of meet and greet. So that was my early cinematic experience in Malaysia in the 1960s, which was not an experience of Malaysian films. It's where I lived. Then was a town, my hometown, Kuantan. It's a town with a large Chinese community in downtown. So there were cinemas, quite a number of them in those days, where they show mostly production from Cathay, Shaw Brothers, Hong Kong left-wing films, Taiwan production, and of course Hollywood. So there were also Malay and Tamil films, but I have to admit that I didn't watch a single Malay and Tamil film in my Kuantan years. And no local Sinophone films, of course. I watched, and in later years I watched Hati Mai Sati, right? You know, the Indian film. And I think that was the only Indian film I watched. But I have friends who watch every Indian film as long as we could. And I watched Malay films on TV later on. Of course, the reason I didn't go to cinema to watch Malay and Tamil films is that I have Malay and Indian friends and classmates in those years. So I don't go to cinema to learn about Malay and Indian culture. So actually we share the same everyday life experience. And for me, film is the real world which is not real. That's a Lacanian real. And it makes a strange, make it strange, make it new, it defamiliarizes my life experience, but in my real life, in that time, I don't need fiction or illusion to know the truth. We have too much fiction in real life. So the conflict between good and evil, as I grew up, still in the East Coast town, I tried to learn more about film as an art and the world of history of film from magazine and the few books I could obtain in those days. So, what is Malaysian film? We do not expect Malaysian films to represent our everyday life. And in other words, the contrast of the concept of Malaysian films is the constructions of the concept of Malaysian film is a very problematic product, just like the ideas of Malaysian literature. It is always already a language question, and of course always an ethnic question, especially after the May 13, 1969 incident. So it seems that today we still live with the post-1969 national ideology. It is not unnatural for the directors of each ethnic background to shoot films about his or her ethnic community with the characters speak only one language of that community. So there's nothing wrong with that. But when we come to the question of Malaysian cinema as national cinema, which the Norman talked about just now, we put ourselves in a dilemma, the Malaysian dilemma, I call it, after our great Prime Minister. But Malaysian films should be able to show the everyday life of our society in our multicultural world and so on. So today, in a digital-oriented world, the media is more than ever than the message. And every Malaysian can make a Malaysian cinema with his or her handphone. So I remember in 1985, when I was in KL or PJ, someone came back from Hong Kong and brought to her some short films and did a semi-public showing. Where I was impressed by the idea by the media, as it suggests that I too could make film or could use film as a media to express myself, since the techniques and costs of short film production are affordable and accessible. So filmic media should be part of our cultural articulation. So in the ages of, in this age when the society is flooded with images, I think we think visually instead of our literary or verbally. And so are we going to by the question of what is Malaysian film, or Malayanness, or Malayness, Chineseness? Could we just move on without asking this question and think about how to learn and teach visual culture and how to represent, how to imagine our whatever world, inner world, outer world with images, how to think about our society and future with iPhones, how to think digitally. I think this is we should move on to this kind of concern. But I like the idea of national cinema mentioned by Norman just now. You know, the production or construction of the idea of national cinema is a very I think you can find only in Malaysia. We do have a definition of national cinema. We talk about cinema or world cinema. But the definition of national cinema in Malaysia is typically Malaysian, is Malaysia Boleh. Because you know what, it's just a duplication or duplicate of what is probably called national literature. And what is national literature? If you've got the answer to what is national literature, you've got the answer to what is national cinema. So it's very simple, right? If I write in Malay, so my work is national literature. But if I write in Chinese, in English or Tamil, my work is Malaysian literature. So if we use the big of the logic, national literature is not Malaysian literature, or vice versa. So if your film is national cinema, it's not Malaysian cinema. So where are you? Right? But I like the idea because the dilemma is not put by the directors or the writers of Malaysian, but by the government. So maybe they can keep it, but I hope the new government will change it. I don't know. So what is Malaysian cinema? There's nothing wrong with, as I mentioned just now, there's nothing wrong with each director make his film or a film in whatever language. If we have a multicultural policy, right? But after these 2 days of watching the film shown at this mosquito theater, we call it? No, mosquito is okay, a theater with mosquito. Okay, that's a joke. And anyway, you see, we can see that there are films made by Chinese director but speak in Malay, and then an Indian director speak in Malay or whatever languages is not really a matter. So maybe I should be more optimistic. We really have a Malaysian cinema, but not in Malaysia. It's in Taiwan. So I don't know, we are still in the dilemma again. Maybe this is what the host of this activity calls it the anxiety. And this is, I don't know whose anxiety it is. Hopefully it's not mine. Thank you.
I thought you would go on to define your anxiety. Okay, good afternoon everyone. First of all, I would like to say thanks, right, to a lot of people. I just discovered that we are not going to have a closing ceremony, nor did we have an opening ceremony. But I just feel that, perhaps this is the moment I can seize to say thanks to a number of people, especially Ixin, Zikri, and Izai. Right? I want to thank you very much. Without you, this Malaysian Film Festival would not have happened. Right? Even though, let's give them a big hand. Even though I've been given a title as a consultant, right? In fact, I have done almost nothing. Right? The other day I told Zikri it is like lembu punya nama, lembu punya susu sapi punya nama, and I'm the sapi, they are the lembu. Right? They have worked very, very hard on this festival for it to become possible. And last but not least, I want to thank Professor Joyce Liu. She's our patron goddess. Very, very important, because without her, we wouldn't get funding support for this place. I did ask for donation from elsewhere, and I got very, very little. All right, I don't want to mention the number, all right, the figure, but the majority of the funding support has been granted to us through Professor Liu's effort. Right? Thank you so much. Right? And of course, I would also like to thank all the participants, invited speakers. Your presence here is very, very important. Now, I mentioned this, I want to say thanks mainly because it has been my dream for many years to hold this film festival. I helped to set up this place, to convert this place into a movie theater in the year 2004. Quite a long time ago. I'm the only person who still remember how this place looked like before it was a movie theater. Of course, by then we asked for money to set up the real projectors. So if you take a look at the back, you can see on the left side is still the real projectors. It's still functioning. It's still functioning. On the right, it is the digital projector, right? You all know, or one day if you work, you will know, right, how hard it is. So to set up this place, it cannot be one person's effort. I'm not saying that, hey, without me, this place will not become possible. No, it has been the effort of a lot of people, especially my very, very lovely colleagues in this university. We of course asked for a lot of money to set up this place. And then we started running regular screening in the year 2006. Right? So each semester we would show up to 12 films over here for free. We cannot sell tickets because the law, Paris law, forbids us from selling tickets on campus. we cannot. It will be a lot. It will be a lot of work. It will be a lot of work, and Taiwan has some very very strange and outdated law and regulation that will prevent us from showing films on campus. In fact, when we show films over here, we will create some text